Welcome to Customer Love Stories, a podcast where we investigate why certain brands are loved or not loved by their customers. I'm your host, Roby Ganguly, co-founder and CEO of Apptentive. For those of you who don't know, Apptentive is a Seattle-based voice of the customer solution, works with many of the world's largest consumer brands in their mobile apps and on their websites. But we're not here to talk about that. Today, we're talking about customer love with Nicole Lanny. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Roby. Thanks for having me. Great to see you again. I'm a product manager at Gap Inc. for our Voice of the Customer program. So I manage our survey programs and our unstructured data programs at Gap Inc. and really focus on getting all of our customer insights out of all the rich information that they're providing us. And, they're having conversations in all these different places. And how do we piece that together and make the best recommendations to the business and support them in all their needs?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've loved partnering with you. We love learning from you. And obviously, there are a lot of fans of Gap and the Gap brands around the world, but we're not really here to talk about that. We're here to talk about you. Who or what are you a fan of, Nicole?
Well, I'm a fan of a lot of things, but I am really a fan of like staying healthy and keeping my body in shape and getting out and moving throughout the day, especially, right now when we're at home and we're inside most of the day. So I joined this really great gym across the street from me, and it's called F45, which it stands for Functional 45. And they're 45-minute hit interval classes, and they work me out so much harder than anything else I do at home. And really, what I love about it is all the people that I've met there too.
So, F45, I've seen recently, like here in Seattle, I've seen one go up in the last couple of years, and it seems like it's kind of come on as a phenomenon. How'd you discover F45? What drew you to it and pulled you in?
Yeah, so it was early last year. It was March in 2021, and one of my athletic coworkers told me that F45 was partnering with our local Athleta store, which I think is something actually both brands do really great at. Athleta has a great community, and they bring in all of these outside companies to do partnerships together. And then now that I've really gone into F45, I've learned they do the same thing. And I live in a town of about 9,000 people, so it's pretty cool to have a community when you can. I'm just about 15 minutes outside San Francisco. So my friend, she said, "Hey, like, Athleta is doing this free class with F45. Why don't you join?" And I didn't think too much of it. I asked her a couple questions because it was right the week I got my first vaccine. I said, "Am I going to wear a mask? Is it going to be safe?" And we were all outside, and we actually all had our own little turfs that we were on. So it was a pretty cool experience there. And I knew that at this point in time, I had been inside for a year. Like everyone else, had fallen a little bit out of shape during COVID. I also had an injury. So between gyms being closed and me being injured, I was not in the shape I was before. So I figured I have nothing to lose. It's free. It's safe. I'm going to go. And honestly, didn't know that I would go back and that I would go back as much as I do when I first got there.
So, you go to the first class, you're outside on your own little turf, and it's 45 minutes, pretty intense workout. Like, what made you come back?
Well, I was completely worn out after. So for anyone who hasn't done the format, it's a certain amount of seconds of work and then rest. And it depends if it's a cardio day or a weights day, but like a cardio day, you might do a minute of work and then you get 15 seconds of rest to basically catch your breath, maybe grab a quick sip of water and move on to another exercise. So between being injured and having had the gyms closed where we were for so long, I felt completely out of shape. I was super intimidated. I honestly was about to walk out thinking I'll probably never see these people again. But the trainers came up to me after and they were like, "No, you're doing so great. You got to come back. Like we're all going through this, and we're all in a different place than we were a year ago." And I was pretty surprised because they were all in really great shape, so they didn't they didn't look like we were all in the same place. But having not been an athletic person, I've always been super intimidated. I've tried all different classes and I've tried, similar companies where I went home feeling unathletic and like I didn't do a great job, and I just chose not to go back there. But everyone was super supportive. They tried to sign me up for, a week trial, and I absolutely like loved the couple that owned the gym once I started to talk to them. Given that I'm in a super small town, we're of course neighbors because almost everyone is your neighbor. But I got to learn a lot about them, and the one owner is a doctor, and his wife was a consultant, and they have kids and this beautiful family, and I just thought they were so sweet, and so they told me to take a chance on it, and I said, okay, I'll come and do the 1 week trial. And then I just started to like meet people. So like I had just moved to this town mid COVID from San Francisco. I knew almost no one in the county besides my fiance's family at the time. And it was at the time when we, really weren't seeing a lot of friends pre-vaccine. So I knew very few people where I was. But then as I started to go to class, I was meeting couples that were our age and other people who had also all moved there from places, especially because that was a time when everyone's reevaluating their lives. Um, and they didn't know anyone either. And I thought that was kind of cool because we were kind of all in it together, where we're like, oh, okay, I don't know anyone in this town. Oh, you don't know anyone in this town. Okay, but like when we're here, we're all in one place. And after just a week of it, I noticed my mental health just from getting out of the house, from working from home and meeting people and getting out was so much improved. Like I was like, oh, this is what I was like pre-pandemic. This is who I was. So I just kept going back.
I love it. Okay. So I think what I'm hearing you say is you were prepared for the post free class to be like, not coming back. And something grabbed you about how the trainers kind of talked to you, welcomed you in. And that immediately was different from some of the other classes you've been to that didn't feel as welcoming, that maybe felt competitive or intimidating. This was more like, hey, we're just glad you're here. You're doing a great job. We're all going through this together. And then you go for the week, and what you recognize is that there are many other people in the same boat as you. So similar to you, maybe they're new to the city and don't know that many people. And similar to you, they're trying to get back into activities and they're trying to be healthy. So you like kind of have this ready-made squad of similar people, right? Like you're in the same cohort. Like we just moved here. We've gone through this thing together for the last year. We're just starting to open up and see people and exercise again. So you got this cohort of people. And so that's like after a week, you're like, oh, I'm getting the benefit of the workout and I like the people I'm with. And I might be building my community too, my social circle. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm super social. And I mean, definitely during COVID and then even work from home in general, there's so many days where Monday through Friday, if I didn't go do this, I might not see anyone.
Yep.
And so I was starting to learn like, oh, that's a super important part of my day. And I need to have that back. I need to find a way to do it with my work schedule and being at home and being in a new place. And then the trainers too were just like so great because I had herniated 2 discs in my neck. And so they were so fantastic because there was especially this one trainer, Tony, where he would always try to come around and help me modify the exercises so that I wasn't putting pressure on the parts of my neck that hurt. And I thought that was really great because I didn't have to feel like a star athlete. Like I just had to know, okay, for this exercise, someone's going to help me through it. And that's what they're really there for. And I have gone to a lot of the workout classes before that have physical trainers in the room, but they're not necessarily training you. They're just kind of watching.
Mm-hmm.
So to really have someone coming over and helping you with every exercise and saying like, does that feel okay? Or, does that trigger that symptom for you? And I really just felt like, between that and the owners who I had started to like I was just in such good hands with everyone and I trusted everyone.
That's awesome. Because I think, you can go into that situation. At first, you're worried about maybe this won't fit and I'll be intimidated. You come out the other side after just like a week of experience and you're like, all right, so they care about what's going on with my neck. They're paying attention. I feel like I can trust them with it. They seem to be people that I like and respect that are running the gym. There are definitely people there who are a draw. And one of the common themes coming up in these podcasts about why people connect is there's this sense of like belonging. There's a sense of alignment with values. It sounds to me like you felt like there's alignment of values with the owners. There's alignment of care and attention to your neck issues that made you feel safe. And then there's alignment with the people who are going because they're in similar spots of their life. And so that's good enough to get past that first week. And then you keep coming back. And how does your relationship then develop as you get past that first week into, like, people say it's 30 days to a habit, right? So
Yeah.
I imagine part of the reason that you're such a fan of this is you've created a habit. So what happens after that first week?
Yeah, well, I should probably add my apartment complex does have a gym, and I started paying to go to this gym, and it's an unlimited monthly membership, and
Right.
so and it's pretty competitively priced with some of the other similar programs. So you're paying a lot, and you have the incentive to go as much as you can because you're paying the unlimited fee. And so in my mind, I said, okay, well, if I go 5 times a week, then I'm paying this many dollars per class, and I can justify that. Yeah, I could definitely justify that. So I was trying to go at the beginning to also get my money's worth. And again, like, I went the first week, my first vaccine, so I really wasn't leaving the house much otherwise. So I was like, this is great. I have a reason to leave the house every day. I'm getting this return on my investment. So then I went from like the week trial to a 1 month trial. And I thought I'm going to go as much as I can in 1 month. And we did body scans at the beginning where you could see, what your fat and muscle ratio was on each part of your body. And then you can, check back up on that however often you want so that you could really see too, like what if your body was improving. And after 1 month, I was like, whoa, my results are crazy. There's no way I'm going to stop going because also I don't want to say goodbye to any of these people. Like I didn't have it in my heart to not go back. And it was pretty cool because they started doing these 8-week challenges where you sign up with a group and you're all there to motivate each other. And so the trainers are coaching you even more personalized, like outside of your workout times when you do the challenges on what type of nutrition do you need? How should you be balancing your carbs and your proteins this week? What are the types of workouts you should balance with those? And that was a really cool aspect of it and was like help push me more. But then what was really cool was then you would start a WhatsApp group with whoever was in your challenge and you compete against the other groups. And that's where we really all got to know each other like outside of the gym. And we started doing things together. And that's when like it was really cool. We got this group of 8 women together who were all about my age and were all new to the area and had joined. And we went out, to have dinner together. And we were out for like 4 or 5 hours because we just couldn't stop talking. And we're like, whoa, like this is what it means to meet other people, around here. And so after I started doing the challenges and meeting more people through the challenges, then I felt like a little bit more confident too, like going to class and making conversation with people that I didn't know. And if it was a partner workout, I would always introduce myself to whoever my partner was. And I'd find myself like staying afterwards to chat with the trainers. And then something I should mention too that makes it extra fun, whether you think you're into social media or not, because I'm not a social media guru, but there's videos all over social media. So they're posting what you're doing in class, like, oh, my friend's at that class, and oh, okay, like we're doing this exercise today. And then I'm taking funny photos with the trainers all the time, and they're always tagging me. And so there's just like this sense of like, everyone wants to be there because you see that everyone you love is there. And if you go at the same time every day, then you really get that group of people that I joined the 7 a.m. club, which I said I would never do, but I was there 7 a.m. 5 days a week. And I, was seeing the same people again and again. And we'd be like, oh, are you sore from yesterday? Like, did you go eat carbs when you got home? And then you start talking about other stuff that's happening in your life too. So it just kept building. And I'm like, whoa, like this is something that I need and something that's important to me and that I need to make time for.
And that need to make time for, I think, is so important to this, right? Like this is like it's not just a product you buy, it's a service you're paying for, an experience you have to be in, right? So you got this unlimited membership you're paying for, and you start out being like, how do I get the most value out of it? So I'm going to make time for it so that I'm getting that value. But then it becomes past that, you want to continue making time for it because you're seeing results and you like the people and you've got these relationships you've developed. Like throughout the course of this, so that was March of last year, and you're still going. So we're like a year and 6 months in, 18 months into your relationship with them.
Yep.
So, man, what's changed over time? Have you like branched out? Are you still part of the 7 a.m. club? Do you like mix and match? How's that going?
Yeah, well, now they have lunch class, which if I can make time in my schedule is my favorite class of the day because it's like a really great way to break up the day. I have a little bit different groups that I see at different times depending on when I go. But I got my fiance to join with me because he went to a party that they did. So at the end of the challenge, when you spend 8 weeks like eating really healthy and doing body scans and going to class every day, and we also would do bingo challenges in the middle of the challenge where you're trying to check the most things off your bingo box. So maybe you need to go meet with someone, maybe you need to take a photo or video doing an exercise challenge, maybe you need to post your meal on social media. So you complete the bingo cards, you complete the challenges, and then at the end of the challenge, they always throw a big party. And for the party, they said, you can bring, any friends or family that you want. And they rented out this restaurant in our little historic downtown that's in the Redwoods. And it's just one of my favorite places. It's already super special to me. And it was a Friday night. And I said to my fiance, I'm like, you just have to come with me. Like, you're going to love everyone. And he's like, all right, well, I'll go. But, we'll just stay for an hour. Staying the whole night, and he ended up joining after because he loved everyone so much. So it was just that's the fun part too, is like seeing people outside of it, and we didn't have to be eating healthy, and we didn't have to be thinking about what we were doing with our bodies. We're just like out having fun. So then I got him into it. And yeah, now I mean, I just over time I've grown like closer and closer to everyone. So I feel like it's such a big part of my family. I got to be on the billboard outside, which I have a picture for you if you want me to share.
Yeah, yeah, we always have this prop, and like I think yours is the coolest prop we've seen. So share with us what this turned into.
All right, absolutely.
Nice.
So I pulled a few photos. Yeah, the one on the right that I just mentioned, they actually put me on the billboard, which was pretty cool because this was when I was out. So I went into F45 last year with the neck surgery or the neck injury. And then when I went out on surgery, that was actually my biggest concern that I asked my doctor was like, well, how long am I going to have to be away from the gym? Like, I was worried about what was going to happen to my body,
Right.
absolutely. But I was having this like fear of missing out of like, oh gosh, like I'm not going to be able to get out of bed for a couple weeks. I'm going to miss everyone. I'm going to be at home seeing all the videos and wishing I was there. So they actually put me on the billboard right here while I was out, and I'm lifting some kettlebells, and it says, grab life by the bells, because that was their big, January New Year's push to get people to join and kind of reset. So it was pretty fun. I went over and visited everyone a few times while I was out and got to take a picture with my billboard. And that definitely proved to me during that time that I was out that I missed everyone just as much as I thought.
That's
um,
incredible.
yeah, it was such a great experience. Like it was a pleasant surprise too. Definitely didn't ask to be part of any of the marketing. So when they asked me about it, I was very pleasantly surprised. And then here's me signing the golden kettlebell. So once you hit 100 classes, you get to sign this golden kettlebell with everyone else who's come before you. And it's pretty cool because I joined the week that they opened. That's what that free class was that I went to. So I was one of, the earlier people to sign it with a bunch of people that I had started with. And I hit 100 classes in less than 6 months. So I really was going like 5 or 6 times a week, which was a goal for me. So it wasn't really about like how fit I was or how different my body was, but to me, it was about like setting the schedule, setting the time for myself every day to make sure I got up and got out and worked out and saw people and bettered myself because it is so easy in work from home to not leave your house all day. And I think that's the biggest common misconception is that people think when you're working from home, like you're out running errands and you're going to lunch with your friends and you're shopping. And my work from home days are definitely not like that. The day can escape you so fast. And before you know it, like you haven't gone to the outside world in 1 or 2 days. So to me, it was just such a big milestone to say, like, oh, I set aside time for myself 6 days a week and I got to sign the kettlebell.
That is a cool tradition. The 100 workouts is like, I think about that as such an obvious behavior change. You know, you go from 0 to 5, 5 to 10 workouts, but then from that 0 to 100, you know, you're seeing lots of changes in your body, right? Like your strength. I mean, shoot, just like the photo of you grabbing life by the bells with 2 kettlebells is probably like a pretty meaningful set of achievements, right, to get to that point. So you've got this physical manifestation of like, I've done this and I'm signing this and I've got this group. So they're building in along the way this sense of like progress that you're making at the same time that you're feeling the progress. Which one mattered more to you?
To me, it was like even if I didn't get any physical progress, which I knew I would because inevitably you have to with these workouts, unless you're eating really poorly. It was like even if I didn't see the physical process progress, it was like the mental progress of like stepping away from my desk, making the time, doing the routine. That was what was more important to me because it's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to find an excuse to not go. And we could all stay on work for 2 more hours, or we could all watch TV for 2 more hours. And so to me, it was just like that was a symbol of the time I made for myself. And yes, those are two 24-pound kettlebells. And
Holy
like I said,
cow.
I was not athletic at all. So for me to be able to do that, like that was just, I was not athletic and I was injured at that time. So that was like a huge accomplishment for me to be able to like get up to do that. And I've always been so intimidated by weightlifting and I've always been worried about my form because I'm worried I'm going to hurt myself. So that's why it's super helpful to have everyone like there guiding you through the whole process.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally true. I think what you're saying about the form is so intimidating, especially as we get older, you know, like we become more aware of some of the ways in which we do things wrong and we pull a muscle. And so, like, having that sense of safety again, you're like, hey, I'm in good hands when they're dealing with my neck. I'm in good hands because they're watching me. I'm in good hands because I don't feel intimidated. Like, all of those things are pretty safety inducing. Now, one of these photos is two of you with this guy in the middle. Now, who's that guy?
So he's the guy who's in the videos. So the workout style's pretty wild. I feel like we get people, by the way, that you can see the studio's all glass, so they watch all the time when we're in class, and it must look like pretty funny from the outside because whatever station you're at, it's boot camp style. You're watching the video to do that exercise, and they do all the demos at the beginning too. But you're watching that video, you're doing it for, like I said, 45 seconds or a minute before you switch to the next one. And there's actually a guy who does all the videos, and his name's Corey, and he's like this huge F45 celebrity. So he came and visited the studio last year, and everyone wanted to sign up and meet Corey because then he came around and trained us, and he was kicking my butt like no one ever has before. So that was this like huge celebrity moment where everyone wanted to come meet Corey, and that was another cool kind of hype aspect of all this. And he's right here in middle too. We all took a class
Oh
after.
yeah.
But that was just so fun because it really brought it to life because you see this guy in the video and then as the buzzer's going off, you're moving from video to video, you're moving from station to station, but like, you're kind of like, is this person real? And yeah, he was very real. So the visit from him was very cool.
And I can't not mention the fact that you were doing these workouts the whole time masked. So, like, they're pretty intense in the first place. But, like, what we're talking about isn't just something that you became a fan of. It's not just something that you made time for. It's something that you really, like, you took your level up a lot in order to just do a 45-minute workout masked up. You know, there's a lot of motivation in you to go do that and then keep doing that. So, we're 18 months in, you've got your fiance doing it. You know, how do you perceive this in your life versus where it was in the first couple months? Has it changed at all?
I think it become easier for me to prioritize now because like I know it's something that's important to me. And so, when I'm planning my week, I plan my workouts at least a week out. So I know, if this is my meeting schedule and if these are any other appointments I have or people I'm seeing or places I need to be, like I always know what time I'm setting aside to do this. So that I've become like almost a fanatic about where like I love signing up a week out. I love and I do have, certain trainers too that you love extra. And so you're asking them like, oh, like, when are you going to be teaching class? And that's something too that like becoming close with the trainers wasn't something that I expected since I've never felt athletic and I've never felt like I truly enjoyed the aspect of working out. I never pictured myself being friends with trainers. But they've been really great. And there's some that have literally become like family to me. And especially, like I said, in a time when I hardly knew anyone, like, and those were some of the first people I met. So I definitely prioritize kind of like when I go, but I just know that, like, for me, I'm always booking and kind of planning my week around it. I'm trying to bring friends with me when I can. I've dragged several in. So I'm one of those people. They're doing like a free class with Lululemon and F45 together this Sunday. So I've been posting on social trying to get people to go with me. So it's pretty great. And then it's pretty cool too to establish the routines, like especially on Saturdays, like after I go, my fiance and I will go have acai bowls after, and that's kind of our thing. And then we met this other couple that got engaged right before us, and they wanted to take salsa lessons before their wedding. And so we all went to salsa classes together one Friday, and I thought that was pretty cool. Just like continuing to meet more people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you see all the time outside of it, because you're going to see them when you get there. But it's kind of just a bonus that like outside of it, a lot of us have become friends as well.
I think so. Didn't just get your fiance into it, you're getting friends into it. You're dragging friends into the classes, you're posting, you're evangelizing. And I think what I'm picking up on is the thing that's changed from like those first few months to it's like it's such an established piece of your life that you plan around, that you make it work. You're like, nope, this has got to be. So that like you move from a feeling of safety and like, yeah, I can do this, and a feeling of let me get my best value, to being like, hey, my identity has shifted, right? Like a piece of this now that is really important is that my identity is I'm an F45 class taker, right? Like what do you have a name? Like, is there
Yeah,
like,
that 45er. Yeah.
so you're an F45er, right? So you're an F45er now. Like at first you're kind of like, maybe you feel like you're playing at being an F45er, but after a few months you're like, yep. And now you're like an old school gym member. You're like, oh, I was here when it started. New people come in. You're like, don't worry about it. I know how you feel. Like, trust me, this is going to work for you. So you're like an evangelist and a steward. You're now like a piece of that experience people are having. Are you aware of that? Are you thinking about that when you're doing that? You're like, oh, I'm part of this experience that F45 is producing.
Yeah, because I mean, part of it is like because it is part of my routine. You're like, oh, like I want to bring friends with me because like that's what like my Saturday and Sunday morning always starts with. And so I'd love to bring a friend. But then the other part of it is like, you're like, oh, well, I want to show this to them. Like I want them to experience what I'm experiencing. And so that's like, part of like growing, that community, right? Is bringing in more friends so that they can have the same great experience I had.
Yeah. And I like because we talk a lot about emotional connections with brands and things that you buy, or experiences you've had maybe with music. And this is an experience that it's not just like you're viewing an artist, you're actually participating and your body's transforming as a part of this experience. And so like so much of that like identity that comes from being a fan of something, you're actually like changing your own identity, physically and mentally, and how your schedule is working. And so it's so like deep, there's like such a deep thing that comes with being an F45er as a result of this. So what would they have to do to lose you?
I mean, they'd have to move or I'd have to move. I'm not going and it's funny because I'm like looking for a house right now, as you know, which is super fun in the Bay Area right
Oh my
now.
gosh. Yeah. Sorry.
And yeah, thanks. Not in a rush, which is great. But it's really funny because like I have an idea in my head of what my radius needs to be to 45. And we just had two sets of couples that were members and they moved about 20 minutes away and they go every single day, twice a day. And so they're doing the drive twice a day,
Holy cow.
yeah, 20 minutes each way because they said like that, I'm not going to give this up. Like this is something that's so important to me.
That's
So,
incredible.
and I should mention, there are two locations that are closer to them than that. So, because they're franchised, so they're in all
Mm,
different places. but it's about you want to be at this one with these people. So it's all about people.
And so the space is very much a vessel for the equipment and the classes and the people. But it's not the equipment and the classes that fill the space, it's the people. That's why they're choosing not to go too closer, because they're like, look, you can fill it. And it's the same material and it's the same equipment, but it's not the same people. So, how, thinking about what they're doing, and given how much you know about customer experience and the voice of the customer and being intentional about it, like how much of the stuff that they're doing is intentional around creating this community? Do you see them using techniques and tactics that other people should pick up on?
Yeah, I mean, I think like definitely they're trying, and I love the neighborhood aspect of it. Like something I should have mentioned was like the owners are there every single day. Not to mention like they even have jobs outside of that job, right? Like imagine being a doctor but coming in every morning before you go to work to be
Right.
there so everyone can see you. So that was like something that I really loved about it. So you're getting this visibility and it's like, oh, these are real people and they care about us and we care about them. And I think that they're super intentional with who they hire. And I think like as like the classes have grown so much, and in general the membership has grown obviously in the last year and a half. There's been so many new trainers, and like there's definitely certain trainers that resonate with people. And there's like something about like the super outgoing ones, especially because like we're all having a really hard time when we're in there. I mean, like you said, when I'm masked too, like there were so many times I could barely breathe. And even now we're not even masked and my face is bright red when I get out of class.
Right.
And I look like that for about 20 minutes. Um, so you're exhausted mentally and physically while you're doing it. But then for someone to like come around and like, make a joke with you or take a photo with you that makes you giggle. It's just like the trainers are really important. And I also should have mentioned like we're blasting music the whole time. It's basically a dance party. Like when I have a 15-second break, I'm literally dancing and shaking the station. So that's like part of what also I'm like, oh, this is like something that I need in my day. And on the weekends, they'll have DJs there and then they'll have like local businesses come in. So we have like Juice Shop or Pete's Coffee or some of the stores that are in the shopping center that it's in. They'll all kind of do spotlights on the weekends with some of their products. So they're creating that sense of community and they're being like really intentional too about like who they partner with and who they hire. And I think that's super important because definitely, like, if all the trainers were to go away overnight and they hired trainers that didn't have the same, like social aspect that they have now and weren't as caring, but also as fun, like, it wouldn't be the same place.
Right. Right. If they'd had somebody who, right when they opened, you walked in and you were like, they seem a little arrogant,
Hmm.
they're not necessarily seeing my workout as my workout. They're kind of like making me feel like I'm not doing it well. That would be a way that like it would have changed your experience and it wouldn't have stuck, right? So
Yes.
have you seen them make hiring decisions and then undo those, where they're like, ah, that didn't work out?
Absolutely. Yeah, there
Okay.
is like a trial period. So that I think that's pretty cool. It's because then they'll kind of observe how they're interacting with everyone. And then I think like too the social piece of it is huge because like I said, I'm not huge into social, but like having the WhatsApp and having so they'll post on their Instagram stories like videos of everyone doing the workouts every day. And then, if you're sitting at home and you're kind of debating if you're gonna go that night, you're like, oh, okay, but I just saw my friend in that class and okay, like that looks like a really good workout. I kind of need that. Like I'm getting ready for my wedding. I need to go be having my butt kicked. So it's kind of cool, like really watching like throughout class how they'll post the different videos and the classes book up too, which is also another incentive is that you're like,
Hmm.
oh well, I want to book it because like this time is really popular. 6 a.m. books up like a week out, which blows my mind, but there's a lot of really committed people. And then the other classes book up too. So yeah, I think like the social is another cool aspect of it where you kind of always know like what's going on. They do really cool newsletters and events, and so like you always feel in the know. Every day is kind of like a little bit different than the day before. And the workout changes every single day too, so you never do the same thing twice, which is something that at home I definitely would not be able to do on my own.
Right. Right. It's like, the job they're taking on is structuring a workout, a regimen for you that you can rely upon, and you can outsource that. Because if you get into a routine at home, you're not necessarily like challenging your muscles as much, and then you have to put time and energy into it. So there's like yet another thing that they're doing to differentiate and help you out. So they have this trial period, right? Because I'm really curious about what it would look like to lose you aside from you moving, right? Because like we talk about customer love through the lens of, there's an emotional connection and it's really strong, but you can break those emotional connections. So I'm trying to kind of understand more. So if you had to move and you were too far away, that would be one. And it sounds to me like they do a really good job with the trial period with the trainers of seeing if they mingle, like if they really work with the classes. And I've got to imagine that they've got, a sense of one person's going to be good for a group and one person's going to be good for another group, because you were saying that you pick your own instructors. Have you seen any of the people they've brought in on the trial and then removed where you're like, oh, I don't understand why I really like that person?
Um, no, but
Okay.
I've understood why some people didn't stay.
Yeah. Right.
Um, because I think too, like everyone is like serious and kind of there for a purpose, but at the same time, like I said, you kind of have to like lighten the mood, and we're a really goofy bunch. And I mean, you lived in San Francisco, you've been in the area, like there's like such a special culture here, of really like how outgoing everyone is. And so I've noticed that like the trainers who are less outgoing are less appealing to the group, right? Because like everyone kind of craving that connection that I'm craving, right? That's why they're there. Because if you didn't want that connection, you would just work out at home. Like I will work out at my apartment gym for free. There's no
Yeah.
reason to ever go anywhere else. So I think that, the personality is super important. And then also like if a trainer like isn't coaching you as much, or is just kind of like walking around and doing what kind of happens in a lot of the standard workout classes, or like standing at the front of the room, like that's not motivating. That's not pumping you up. And then the trainers are pretty good at reading the room with the music too. Because we've got people of all age groups in
Right.
there. And there's also like all different times of day. Like you might not want to listen to a certain type of music at 6 a.m. or like there's like some lifting music versus cardio music to like really get you pumped up and in the zone for different types of workouts. So it sounds silly, but it's like all the little things like that like really matter. But yeah, I think for me, like if there was some massive turnover tomorrow and like they sold the franchise or they got all new trainers, like if that changed, that would definitely be something that would be concerning for me, because I'd still have all my friends there. But like, if you're not having that same trainer connection, it's difficult to want to go back.
So that seems like to me what I'm hearing is their biggest point of leverage in delivering the experience is the trainers. And so that has to
Mhm.
be their biggest point of emphasis. And for you, they're doing a really good job screening and thinking through that. But if they changed, if they didn't do it as well, maybe if the owners took more of a passive approach and let others kind of manage that, and they came back one day and were like, oh my gosh, these trainers aren't doing the things we expected them to do, that'd be a place where you might say, oh, that's not appropriate. It's not fitting what I'm expecting. But they've got momentum. And so what it sounds like to me is they've got momentum and they've got a community, and that community is growing and it brings more people in. So it seems like, I'm going to guess, the business results of this must be really good. That the membership seems like it's really good, and that the classes are filling up on a regular basis. You have to book them a week out. Like, can you speak to what you see in their business as a result of the way that they've invested in this community?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty easy for us to see because they add classes to the schedule as they get the
Right.
recurring numbers, right? So you can kind of tell. So I think when it started out, it was like a morning class and an evening class. And then it was two morning classes and two evening classes. And then as it was growing, that's like when we started to get the lunchtime classes and extra classes on weekends, and the classes even earlier for people who worked from home and wanted to come at 4:45 instead of 5:30. And I think they do a really good job too, is they're always sending out surveys on class times. And so even like when the summer started and a lot of people travel, or they're home with their kids, like their schedules change a lot. And so they're always keeping tabs every couple months on like what are the class times that you want to see, what types of classes do you want to have. So I think definitely for me, I've just noticed like the schedule grows so much. So I know that that's a great sign.
Okay, that's really cool. They're sending out surveys to think about the schedules. And as people's schedules change, because they go through these rhythms, they're adjusting. So I hadn't thought about that at all, but like part of the product that they have is the space, but the space has to intersect with your time and your schedule. So they have to actually be really aware of like, do we have the right trainers and do we have the right schedule so that you can get the right value? And mixing that and intermingling, that's like kind of a real time active thing that they have to really work through, and they're doing a good job of it. So interesting, right? The experience design for them has so much more to do with like building that community and fostering the environment and fitting into your life and your schedule. And to some extent, when they get you hooked in enough, you're also building your life around it too, right? Like it sounds to me like you're saying my Saturday and Sunday mornings start off this way. So I want to think about this, and then I have this activity afterwards. And so, they're influencing your schedule too, but that's the symbiotic relationship that creates a really deep emotional connection that's ongoing for you 18 months in.
Yeah, 100%. And if you don't work from home or you have kids, like you're on a more set schedule, and so they have to be accommodating you, right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to come.
And when you think about this and what they've done so well and made you a fan, how do you bring that into your work? Like when you think about that, like what do you want to incorporate? Does any of this get internalized and you start to think about it differently as a result?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in retail, we're always trying to think about like how do you bring that human connection, especially with so much being on digital. It's a huge challenge, right? So it's like we're used to cultivating those relationships in the stores, but how do we cultivate that relationship digitally? That's always something that we're looking to do, and especially in my world with the surveys. So it's always a topic of conversation. And we have examples of other retailers that we think are doing it well, but then we try to be innovative at the same time. But I think retail is super similar, especially because retail, you have 1,000 more competitors than you even have in this gym space. Because if you don't like the way that a company is treating you, or you don't like that you had to wait in line too long, or you don't like their pricing structure, like you'll just go find a similar-ish item somewhere else for the most part, unless the product is super proprietary. So I think that connection's super important. And then for me in my role, I have like an interesting role because I have two customers. I have the customer, and then I have my internal customers. And so like a huge part of my role is building my roadmap around what suits both sets of customers. And luckily, a lot of my internal customers are speaking on behalf of the external customer. But I'm always in service to someone, right? That's part of like being a product manager, is like taking in all those requests and figuring out how you can get it done. And so that's a really exciting part of my role. Is I've got customers everywhere. So
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, is that you have two types of customers and you're trying to think about how to serve them. I really like that. Like when you think about the community that F45 has developed, are you developing Nicole's internal customer community? Like when you're thinking about this?
I try, Roby. I think most of my stakeholders would say like that I do, like that's actually something I bring to the table outside of technical skills, and I'm not the most technical person, is that like I bring like the empathy and like the kind of like we're going to find a way to make it work attitude. So like they want something done, maybe we're on a budget, we're on a timeline crunch, like okay, like let's like meet in the middle and see what we can do. And I just remember too, when I applied for my first apartment in San Francisco, like one of my favorite stories, the landlord was super strange. I won't paint a picture of him, but he was odd. But he sent me an email after, and he's like, I've been waiting for 3 or 4 days to hear from your current apartment. They still won't get back to me. Like he said, I really don't have like any of the financial background run on you that I wanted. And then he said, but when you came and met with me, your enthusiasm was infectious, and I want to rent you this apartment. And
Wow.
I just remember I was like, oh, that's kind of like who I strive to be. Like he was the strangest dude, but he kind of nailed it. So I think that's what I try to do, and that's what I try to bring when I'm with my stakeholders who are my, customers.
Yep. Yep. That enthusiasm, infectious enthusiasm, the optimism, and that involving people, bringing them along. It seems to me like, today what we've talked about more than anything that resonates with me is like, what this group of F45 owners and trainers has done is they've filled the space in a way that makes you want to be there right? And they feel that with people you want to work out with, a community that you like, that you attach to, and with trainers that you trust and you feel safe with, and that feeling, right, makes them want to be there and makes you want to stick to your regimen and really be focused on it and plan your schedule around it. And so I think, biggest thing I'm taking away from this is when you have that opportunity to think about the levers that create that community, like interviewing the trainers, like you've got to be thoughtful about those levers, and you've got to be thoughtful about how you show up. And then what you're saying inside a gap is you're thinking about, hey, how can I make you feel in this relationship we have comfortable, right? Like one of the things I can bring is I'm going to be all in. I'm going to be infectiously enthusiastic, and that's a thing that you can bring, and that's consistent from you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when I think of myself and like you were saying, like bringing my friends and like spreading the word, like I'm always thinking about promoters because that's what I do for a living,
Right.
right? And so it's like if you create this product or this experience and like I didn't even know that I needed that experience. Like I knew I needed to get into shape, but I can do that a million places in the Bay Area. So I didn't even know I needed like this experience. But then if you create that for someone, then like they're gonna bring in the people they know. I mean, heck, I'm trying to drag my parents when they visit me to go to class with me.
Oh my
So I'm
gosh,
like,
that's awesome.
yeah, I'm like Saturday morning start with this. Or like, we met up with friends 2 days in a row last weekend. I told both sets of friends, I was like, hey, well, Saturday morning go to class. This is the earliest I can go. Sunday I go, and so we can start after. Like so
Yep.
like and then they're like, oh well, what is that class you go to? Like, oh, maybe I'd be interested in it. And so like definitely goes to show. And my friend brought me in when I knew nothing about it, and I was just kind of on a whim with like, okay, well, that might be something I'm looking for. I'm not sure. So it really shows like how powerful that spread of promoters is. And I know from being in this industry, the detractor can be even more widespread, right? So you
Yep.
definitely want to be on that side of it with your business.
No, this sounds very much like a business that, when done well, should produce promoters on a regular basis because what they're doing is getting healthier, right? And it's like, hey, I want to talk about getting healthier. I want to talk about how I'm doing better. I want to talk about the achievements. Like, did you see me with those kettlebells? Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
do that 3 weeks ago. I think this kind of industry has that opportunity to create it. And it reminds me a little bit of CrossFit. Like, how do you know
Yep.
somebody does CrossFit? Well, within 10 minutes of meeting them, they're going to tell you, is the joke,
Talking about it. Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's got this similarity, but there's so many other gyms. There's so many other ways to work out. And we actually have covered Peloton so far on the podcast. That's the only other one that's comparable. And I'm Peloton fanatic. So I definitely know what it's like to tell people like, hey, this thing will help. Like I love it because, and yours just sounds like an even deeper level of that in-person connection and that community that you're building. So this has been awesome. I really, really enjoyed learning about you being an F45er and seeing your fame on the marketing poster outside. That's really cool. Where could people connect with you if they wanted to, stay in touch or learn more about what Nicole thinks about the world?
Oh, yeah. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Like, happy to chat. Love to talk about customers. Love to talk about workouts, cats, food. Didn't even say, too, like, this is terrible, but I'm not alone in this. One of the reasons I work out so much is I love food. So, I live by San Francisco. I live by wine country. Like, when I'm not at the gym, I'm probably out eating or having some nice wine. So, it's always extra motivation to get me in there in the morning and not feel so guilty about it. So yeah, love to talk all things Bay Area, everything.
Awesome. Well, we'll link to you in the show notes and also link to F45 where you can find out a little bit more about this brand that's doing some amazing things, especially for Nicole and her fiance and their community in Marin. So I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and give us a rating and review at www.ratethispodcast.com/CLS. And we love feedback so we can continue to make this podcast valuable. And we wish you all the best and hope you can continue to deliver customer love in everything you do.